So I just don't see how, evening to you, we can continue with the idea of another lockdown, Indian variant or no Indian variant. I'm sorry, I just don't know how we can do it. Our mental health, our sanity, our economy, surely now is the time that we have to try and find some way of going forward and living with this variant. I don't know whether that's realistic. I don't know if I'm talking rubbish by saying that, but someone who'll be able to guide us through some of this is the senior clinical lecturer at the University of Exeter Medical School, infections disease management expert, Dr. Barat Panchania. Evening to you, Dr. Barat.
Hello, good evening, everyone. Good evening.
Always a pleasure to have you. Look, can I tell you something that is a criticism that I get for you? And I know that you're a gentleman and that you'd be able to accept it. But I think that there is a view from some of our listeners, not all of them, many of them, you know, for instance, Cass has just sent me a message saying, I adore Dr. Panchania.
Thank you.
But some people have said, oh, it's Dr. Militant coming up, or Dr. Grimm coming up, or Dr. Negative coming up. And, you know, look, I know that you can take that kind of criticism, but also, is there anything you can give us to be cheerful about with this? For instance, we've all got questions about, can the vaccine maybe mean that the Indian variant isn't so bad? Is there a way forward that means that we can proceed on the June the 21st with the full lockdown? Let's start with the vaccine. Let's start with the vaccine.
Yeah, of course. And we will try and make... Look, Cristo, I think the important bit is, and I want to reassure your viewers and listeners, is I'm independent and I try to be as honest as I can, always honest, always straightforward. So I'm going to be honest with you about all the questions you ask.
I appreciate that. And I know you are. You're an honourable man, Dr. Barat. So tell us about the Indian variant. Is the vaccine effective against the Indian variant? I've looked online to get the answer, and I found the same number of articles saying that it's an absolute catastrophe and that the Indian variant isn't effective. I've also found others saying, no, it stops transmission by a huge amount and it's much more effective. So is there a definitive answer, or do we simply not know?
Yeah, I'm happy to answer that. So at this point in time, this is our knowledge base. Having tested the antibodies produced by the vaccines against the Indian variant virus in the lab, it shows that the antibodies neutralize the virus. What does that translate into layman's language? In other words, the vaccine seems to protect against the Indian variant virus, B617.2. I forget the numbers, but it protects. Okay, the final proof comes from testing it out in the community. What that means is exposing people who are fully immunized and see if they get infected, or only the people who are not immunized get infected. That's the final proof. So at the moment, the laboratory proof is that the vaccines against the variant from India appear to be protective.
Okay, and what does protective actually mean? Does that mean that someone who is vaccinated won't get it, won't transmit it, will get it, but won't get it as badly? What is protected?
Okay, yes. So protective means you make sufficient antibodies to neutralize the presence of the virus and therefore stop you from getting severe illness. And furthermore, it reduces the amount of virus particles that you secrete were you to get mild to moderate infection. So it protects you from basically severe illness ending up in ITU, and it protects you in that you're not a great big secretor of viruses were you to get mild to moderate infection.
And when is someone fully immunized? Is it when they've had 1, 2, or 3 doses of the vaccine?
So at this point in time, if you have had your priming dose, that's the first dose, followed by your boosting dose, the second one, and then 2 weeks later, we would say you've had ample opportunity to have mounted a full immune response. Having said that, the no vaccine is 100% protective in 100% of cases. So you may immunize thousands of people, but about, say, 5 to maximum 10, that sort of order of people will never mount a immune response. In other words, despite my giving them the vaccine, they don't become immune and therefore not protected.
So it just doesn't
That's normal.
work on about on the most sort of 10% of people.
Yes, yes.
And also, are there some people who can't take the vaccine because it's dangerous for them for another medical reason?
No, I find it very hard to find a absolute contraindication to any of the vaccines. So the solution is as follows. And for the United Kingdom, if you are aged under 40, we prefer to give you the Pfizer Moderna platform of vaccines, the mRNA vaccines. And the reason is that we found a rare, unusual, idiosyncratic link with the AstraZeneca Oxford vaccine and the very, very rare, very unusual, more than 1 chance, 1 in 1 million chance of getting blood clots. But in view of the fact that we've established that actually there is a link, we've decided to not give it to the younger people because the link was more so in the younger people. Having said that, it is very hard for me to say the vaccine is contraindicated in anyone. It's applicable to everyone, and whether you have the Pfizer brand or you have the AstraZeneca brand, they both work and they both protect.
So why are so many people worried about the fact that June the 21st might not happen? Surely what you've just told us means that we can unlock fully on June 21st. What does Boris need to know more of over the next few days?
Okay, I'll happy to again answer all this for you,
Thank
Cristo. A pleasure, really. So, one thing about the Indian variant is that it is more infectious. We haven't established that it is more disease causing, and that we've already talked about that it doesn't bypass the vaccines. But one thing is true, that it is more infectious. So if it is more infectious, we expect to generate more cases amongst the people who have not yet been fully immunized and amongst the people who never mounted an immune reaction. So if you are more likely to get infected because this variant is in circulation, inevitably you will generate more cases, and of those more cases that you generate, some of them will end up in hospitals. So the watchfulness is, let us see how it goes, being aware that you need to be careful because this one is more infectious, it can generate more cases. What I mean by that is this: you're in a pub, there is somebody who is infectious, and you're in an indoor place, closed indoor environment, lots of people, poor ventilation, people singing, dancing, shouting at top of their voices, secreting a lot of virus particles. Your chances of getting infected with the variant are very high. That's what I'm trying to say.
But then if you've had the vaccine, presumably that's going to mean that you won't get any or many symptoms, nor be able to pass that on to someone else very easily.
Very true, Cristo. So as I said to you, I'm concerned about especially the non-immunized people or the immunized but they didn't really make an immune response. So if I was advising Prime Minister Johnson, this is what I'm advising, is in view of the fact that we've got vaccines and lots of it, and we've got a variant that's more infectious, what we need to do is send in task force, an extra armamentum, and go and immunize as many people as possible, as fast as possible, double the pace, double the speed, double the numbers, double it all up. So you rapidly, as fast as you can, start immunizing as of tomorrow morning. That's the one good strategy to deploy.
And they did that, didn't they? In Bolton, they did that.
They're starting to do that. It's been a stop-start. So people like myself, not militant at all,
I know, Dr. Militant. That's what we'll call you now, Dr. Barat.
I've been advising that this is what I would do. I would go in there and immunize as fast as possible all age groups, starting from young people upwards. And there has been a little bit of back and forth, which is, no, we want people to complete their vaccine courses. So they've brought forward the second dose. My view would be, and this is my view, and I'm a learned person in this subject, and I say it is important to even immunize with the first dose as many people as you can, because as soon as you've got the first dose into a person, you are starting to protect them immediately.
A lot of people are thinking that maybe Boris Johnson is freaking out a little bit because of the number of people that will potentially get sick from the Indian variant. To what extent do you think that his nerves are taking over? For instance, I'll read you this tweet. Problem is, this is from I am not throwing away my shot, which is a strange Twitter name. Maybe they mean the jab. Boris Johnson has done a bad job from the start. Only after the vaccine arrived and the roadmap was announced did things improve. If he ignores the India variant and more die, he will not have the positive end to the pandemic. It will be his Iraq. You seem to be quite positive about the way in which the vaccine could control this.
Yes.
What are the downsides? What are the negatives? What are the things that those people in SAGE are going to be saying to Boris Johnson that he needs to be most mindful and most careful of?
Well, this is more infectious. Therefore, you must set up a task force and encourage people to be immunized, and you don't force people to be immunized. That's wrong. I'm not in that business at all. But you advise, you educate, you inform, and you take people with you. But this is urgent. So you need to start immunizing ASAP, not tomorrow, today, as fast as you can, with lots of hands to the deck, and that will save you. Now, you are reluctant, Prime Minister, I know, to have restrictions because you don't like them, and I know that. But temporarily, in the hot zones, what you could do is say, I need to cast a cordon around this area here because there is runaway infection, and I need to immunize as many people as possible, and I need to suppress this infection and then release the cordon. So you apply the cordon, send in a task force, immunize as many people as possible, and with respect to people who need to stay at home, this is very important. You need to support them, because not all of us can sit at home, work on the internet and on our keep. Many people need to go to the factories, the shops, the little businesses, etc., to earn the bread to put on the table. Absolutely. On a daily basis.
Absolutely.
So we need to do that. We need to support them.
Finally then, on that note, do you think that might be what we end up with? Perhaps a full unlocking on June the 21st, but certain areas having to be cordoned, having to have these task forces if they have these little surge outbreaks of the India variant?
Forget the 21st of June, Cristo. I tell you this as an infectious disease expert, that we've been saying this for a long time. We need local interventions that we do locally, because after the 21st of June, we will get many outbreaks. And to deal with these outbreaks, we will deal with it locally and regionally, not nationally. Therefore, we have to be prepared that every now and then we may have to have restrictions here, there, and wherever. It's inevitable. So it's not new, it's not rocket science. So you might as well prepare for it. That's the way it will have to be.
All right, Dr. Barat Panchania, really good to talk to you, get some facts on this, the senior clinical lecturer at the University of Exeter Medical School. There you go, he was quite cheerful, gave some quite good news there, but June 21st is not going to be a full unlock for everyone.